Noah loved his apartment. It wasn't fancy, not by a long shot, but it was his. Every scuffed floorboard held a memory. Every slightly chipped paint job a story. He'd lived there for years, making it into a cozy nest filled with books, soft blankets, and the scent of good coffee. Yet, lately, a quiet whisper had started in his mind, growing louder with each passing season. It was time for a change. A big change. Not just new curtains or a different rug, but a real transformation. The kitchen, with its ancient cabinets and squeaky drawers, begged for a fresh start. The bathroom, a relic from a bygone era, practically pleaded for a modern touch. He'd put it off for months, dreading the mess, the noise, the parade of strangers through his sanctuary. But the whisper had become a shout, and Noah finally knew he couldn't ignore it any longer. He started looking for contractors, a task that felt as daunting as climbing a mountain. Most of the names he found were either too expensive, too busy, or simply didn't inspire confidence. Then a friend, a woman with an uncanny knack for finding just the right person for any job, mentioned Ethan. "Ethan's your guy, Noah," she'd insisted, her voice full of conviction. "He's got a way with old places, makes them new without losing their soul. And honestly," she'd winked, "he's got hands that look like they could build a cathedral and eyes that just twinkle." Noah, a practical man despite his love for cozy things, had chuckled at the twinkle part. But he looked up Ethan's company online. The website was simple, elegant, showcasing before and after photos that were truly impressive. He saw kitchens transformed into bright, airy spaces, bathrooms turned into spa-like retreats. And in a few of the photos, a man with a kind smile and a strong build was visible, usually in the background, covered in a dusting of sawdust. That must be Ethan. He called the number listed, half expecting to get an answering machine, but a deep, warm voice answered on the second ring. "Ethan here." Noah felt an immediate sense of ease. "Hi, my name is Noah. My friend, Sarah, recommended you. I'm looking to renovate my apartment, kitchen and bathroom mostly." Ethan's voice was calm, reassuring. "Sarah's a great judge of character. I'll be happy to come by and take a look. When works for you?" They set a date for the following week. Noah spent the next few days tidying up his apartment more than usual, a nervous energy buzzing beneath his calm exterior. He wasn't sure why he felt so expectant. It was just a contractor, after all, a service call. Yet, something about Sarah's description, about Ethan's voice, had sparked a tiny flame of curiosity within him. When Ethan arrived, he didn't disappoint. He stood at Noah's door, a tall man with a comfortable posture, wearing faded jeans and a work shirt that stretched nicely across his broad shoulders. His dark hair was a little messy, as if he'd just run his hands through it, and his eyes, a deep shade of brown, indeed held a friendly sparkle. He carried a worn leather briefcase and a tape measure clipped to his belt. "Noah, good to meet you," Ethan said, extending a hand. His grip was firm, warm, and Noah felt a jolt that had nothing to do with surprise and everything to do with a sudden, unexpected connection. Ethan's hands weren't just strong. They looked capable, like they knew how to fix things, how to create beauty from chaos. "Come in," Noah managed, stepping aside. He led Ethan through his apartment, pointing out the tired kitchen, the cramped bathroom. Ethan listened carefully, nodding, asking thoughtful questions. He didn't just look at the space. He seemed to feel it, to understand what Noah wanted even before Noah fully articulated it. He moved with an easy grace, his presence filling the room without being overwhelming. As they talked, Noah found himself relaxing. Ethan wasn't just a contractor. He was a good listener, and his ideas were brilliant, practical yet inspired. He suggested opening up a small wall between the kitchen and the living room, a change Noah hadn't even considered but instantly loved. He talked about soft lighting, durable materials, and clever storage solutions. "We can make this place sing, Noah," Ethan said, his eyes alight with enthusiasm as he gestured around the kitchen. "Give it new life, a new heartbeat, but keep all the warmth you've built here." Noah found himself smiling, a genuine, hopeful smile. He had a feeling that with Ethan, this big change wouldn't be nearly as daunting as he'd imagined. In fact, he had a strange, exciting feeling that it might just be the best decision he'd ever made. He looked at Ethan, at the rugged charm in his smile, the kind light in his eyes, and knew, with a certainty that surprised him, that this was the right man for the job. Not just for the apartment, but perhaps for something more. The initial consultation with Ethan had left Noah feeling lighter, more hopeful than he had in years. The decision to proceed was an easy one, sealed with a handshake that felt less like a business agreement and more like the beginning of an adventure. A few days later, the real transformation began. Noah braced himself for the chaos, the noise, the inevitable disruption that came with any major home improvement. What he didn't anticipate was the way Ethan brought a kind of organized energy to the process, making the upheaval almost enjoyable. Ethan arrived early on the first day, a whirlwind of tools and easy smiles. He pulled up in a sturdy, well-used truck, the back filled with lumber, tarps, and mysterious-looking machinery. When he stepped out, he was wearing a practical tool belt slung low on his hips, a testament to the hands-on nature of his work. His dark hair was pulled back from his face, revealing a strong jawline and eyes that seemed to miss nothing. He carried a large toolbox with a confident ease, his muscles flexing under his work shirt. "Morning, Noah," Ethan called out, his voice carrying a cheerful warmth that instantly brightened the apartment. He moved with purpose, but without haste, laying down protective coverings on Noah's beloved wooden floors and carefully taping off areas. Noah watched him, mesmerized by the quiet competence in his movements. There was a rhythm to Ethan's work, a natural flow that suggested years of experience and a deep understanding of his craft. Soon, the apartment buzzed with activity. The whir of a saw, the rhythmic thud of a hammer, the gentle hum of a sander. These sounds, which Noah had expected to dread, instead became a comforting backdrop to his days. He worked from home, often finding himself drawn from his desk to peek at the progress. He'd stand in the doorway, a mug of coffee warming his hands, watching Ethan meticulously measure a cabinet or carefully pry away an old tile. Ethan often caught his eye, offering a quick, genuine smile that always made Noah feel welcome, never like he was intruding. "Just getting started on the demo, Noah," he'd say, wiping a smudge of dust from his brow with the back of a strong hand. "Things are going to look a bit messy before they get beautiful." And messy it certainly was. Dust motes danced in the shafts of sunlight, and the air was thick with the scent of wood and plaster. Yet, even in the midst of the chaos, Noah saw the promise. He saw Ethan's vision taking shape, brick by brick, board by board. The old, tired kitchen began to shed its skin, revealing the bones of a brighter, more open space. The cramped bathroom slowly transformed as outdated fixtures were removed and new, sleek lines emerged. They spent hours discussing plans. Not just the big decisions, the type of countertops, the color of the tiles, but the small, intimate details that made a house a home. Ethan listened intently to Noah's preferences, his likes and dislikes, remembering tiny comments Noah had made weeks ago. He'd bring samples of wood, swatches of fabric, and paint chips, spreading them out on the dining table, his calloused fingers pointing out textures and finishes. "What do you think of this for the backsplash?" Ethan would ask, holding up a shimmering mosaic tile. His eyes would gauge Noah's reaction, not pushing his own opinion, but offering guidance. "It'll catch the light beautifully, give the kitchen a bit of sparkle." Noah found himself enjoying these conversations more than he ever thought possible. He appreciated Ethan's patience, his clear explanations, and his unwavering dedication to getting things just right. He saw the pride Ethan took in his work, the way his eyes would light up when Noah expressed excitement over a new design choice. There was a spark in the air, a warmth that extended beyond the usual client-contractor relationship. It was in the easy laughter they shared over a misplaced tool, in the shared silence as they both admired a newly installed fixture. Noah found himself looking forward to Ethan's arrival each morning, a pleasant anticipation bubbling in his chest. He started making extra coffee, sometimes baking cookies, leaving them on the counter for Ethan and his occasional helper. One afternoon, as Ethan was fitting a new sink, his head bent in concentration, Noah watched him. The strong line of his neck, the slight curve of his spine, the way his hands moved with such precision. Noah felt a warmth spread through him, a feeling that was both comforting and undeniably exciting. It wasn't just admiration for Ethan's skill. It was something deeper, a quiet hum that resonated within him. This transformation of his apartment was bringing about a transformation in Noah too, opening him up to possibilities he hadn't dared to consider before. He felt a sense of domestic intimacy blossoming, a feeling of shared space and shared purpose that made his cozy apartment feel even more like home, even with all the dust and disruption. This spark, this subtle shift in the air was something new, something wonderful, and Noah was eager to see where it would lead. As the days turned into weeks, the rhythm of renovation settled into a comforting routine. Noah's apartment, once just a collection of familiar rooms, was slowly becoming something new and exciting, a testament to Ethan's skill and vision. The old, dark kitchen gave way to a bright, airy space with gleaming countertops and sleek, modern appliances. The cramped bathroom transformed into a serene oasis, complete with new tiles and a rainfall showerhead. Everywhere Noah looked, he saw Ethan's handiwork, a blend of practicality and understated beauty. Ethan, once a stranger, had seamlessly integrated himself into Noah's daily life. His arrival each morning was now something Noah genuinely looked forward to, not just for the progress on his apartment, but for Ethan's presence itself. He would often find Noah at his makeshift desk in the living room, working on his laptop, and offer a cheerful greeting. "Morning, Noah. Ready to see some magic today?" Ethan would ask, his voice carrying the warmth of fresh coffee and sawdust. Noah always smiled in return. "Always, Ethan. What marvel are you conjuring up today?" Their conversations grew longer and more personal. During morning breaks, they'd share coffee, Noah's meticulously brewed dark roast, which Ethan had come to appreciate, sitting on upturned buckets or the edge of a tarp-covered couch. They talked about everything and nothing. The fickle spring weather, funny stories from their childhoods, their favorite old movies, the challenges and joys of their work. Ethan, Noah learned, had a dry wit and a hearty laugh that could fill the room, especially when Noah shared an anecdote about his perpetually confused cat. One sunny afternoon, while Ethan was carefully installing the new kitchen faucet, Noah brought him a plate of freshly baked lemon cookies. Ethan straightened up, wiping his hands on a rag, and his eyes crinkled at the corners as he took one. "You spoil me, Noah," he said, taking a bite. "These are incredible." Noah felt a blush creep up his neck. "Just trying to keep the contractor happy." Ethan chuckled, a low, rumbling sound. "Consider me very happy, then." They often fell into comfortable silences, too, moments where the only sounds were the gentle hum of tools or the distant chirping of birds outside. Noah would watch Ethan work, marveling at the strength and precision in his hands. He saw the care Ethan put into every detail, from the perfectly mitered corner of a baseboard to the smooth, even coat of paint on a wall. It wasn't just a job for Ethan, it was a passion. Noah started to notice the small things. The way Ethan always neatly organized his tools at the end of the day, leaving Noah's space as tidy as possible. The way he remembered Noah's preference for unsweetened tea. The way his eyes, when he wasn't focused on a task, would sometimes linger on Noah for a moment longer than necessary. A soft, unreadable expression in their depths. A warm closeness began to settle between them, a quiet, unspoken understanding. It wasn't just the domestic intimacy born from sharing a space during a renovation. It was something more. Noah found himself confiding in Ethan about small worries, about the struggles of his freelance design work, and Ethan listened with genuine interest, offering thoughtful advice or simply a reassuring nod. One evening, after Ethan had left, the apartment felt strangely quiet, almost empty. Noah walked through the newly tiled bathroom, admiring the way the light reflected off the polished surfaces, then into the kitchen, running his hand over the smooth new countertop. It was beautiful, exactly what he dreamed of. But the beauty felt a little hollow without Ethan there, without the hum of his presence, the scent of wood and his subtle cologne. Noah realized, with a small jolt, that he wasn't just looking forward to the completion of his apartment. He was looking forward to seeing Ethan each day. He'd started to miss him on the weekends, a strange, quiet ache in his chest. This feeling of warm closeness, this comfortable familiarity, had woven itself into the fabric of his days, making his apartment feel not just renovated, but revitalized in a way he hadn't anticipated. It was as if Ethan wasn't just building a new kitchen and bathroom. He was building a bridge, too, between Noah's solitary life and a new, more connected future. The thought was both thrilling and a little terrifying, a beautiful mystery unfolding right in his own home. He wondered if Ethan felt it too, this growing warmth between them, this gentle pull. He hoped so. He really, truly hoped so. The apartment hummed with a different kind of energy now. The loud, vibrant symphony of major construction had quieted, replaced by the softer, more meticulous sounds of finishing touches. The scent of fresh paint and new would fill the air, a far cry from the dusty, chaotic smells of weeks past. The kitchen was nearly complete, a gleaming testament to Ethan's artistry, and the bathroom felt like a spa, inviting and serene. The end was in sight, and with it, a bittersweet feeling settled in Noah's chest. He found himself lingering more often, drawn to Ethan's presence like a moth to a flame. He no longer saw Ethan as just the contractor, the man hired to fix his home. That simple definition had blurred, then dissolved entirely, replaced by a recognition of someone special, someone whose easy smile and steady hands had become an unexpected cornerstone of his days. Ethan was more than a worker. He was a confidant, a source of quiet companionship, and a growing warmth in Noah's solitary life. One afternoon, as Ethan was carefully aligning a cabinet door in the kitchen, Noah stood in the doorway, a freshly brewed cup of tea in hand. He watched Ethan's focused expression, the slight furrow in his brow as he made a precise adjustment. Ethan's work was almost done, and a quiet panic began to prickle at Noah. What would his days be like without the low hum of Ethan's voice, the rhythmic tap of his hammer, the comforting scent of sawdust, and his presence? Noah cleared his throat softly. Almost there, huh? Ethan straightened up, turning with that familiar, easy smile. Just about. Got a few more little things to tighten up, then we're good to go. He gestured to the sparkling new kitchen. Looks good, doesn't it? It looks incredible, Ethan, Noah said, his voice softer than he intended. More than I ever imagined. A comfortable silence fell between them, filled only by the gentle clinking of Noah's teacup. Ethan's gaze lingered on Noah for a moment, a thoughtful, unreadable expression in his warm brown eyes, before he turned back to his work. Suddenly, Noah remembered something. Oh, hey, Ethan, he began, walking further into the kitchen. There's actually one little thing. It's not part of the renovation, but it's been bothering me for ages. Ethan looked at him, an eyebrow raised. What is it? Noah led him to a small, old wooden shelf in the living room, near his overflowing bookshelf. It was an antique piece, a beloved family heirloom, but had always been a bit wobbly, leaning slightly to one side. This old thing, Noah explained, gently pushing it. It's never been quite stable. I've tried shims, everything, but it always tilts. Ethan knelt down, examining the shelf's legs and the wall behind it with a professional eye. His fingers, strong and calloused, probed the joints, testing its stability. Noah watched him, captivated. There was a quiet intensity in Ethan's focus, a dedication even to this small, unbilled task. Ethan murmured, standing up. Looks like it just needs a good anchor into the stud, and maybe a bit of reinforcement on the leg. He walked back to his toolbox, pulling out a drill and a handful of screws. Noah leaned against the doorframe, watching as Ethan returned to the shelf. He worked with a quiet efficiency, his movements fluid and practiced. He drilled a small pilot hole, then carefully screwed a bracket into the wall, securing the top of the shelf. Then, with a small piece of wood and a dab of strong adhesive, he reinforced the wobbly leg, his strong fingers pressing it firmly into place. Noah found himself admiring Ethan's hands. They were practical hands, capable hands, etched with the story of hard work. But there was also a tenderness in the way he handled the old wood, a respect for its age and fragility. He wasn't just fixing a shelf, he was tending to something precious. As Ethan finished, he gave the shelf a firm push. It was solid, unyielding. He smiled, a genuine, warm smile that reached his eyes. There you go, Noah. Good as new, or rather, good as old, but sturdy. Noah walked over, touching the now stable shelf. A wave of unexpected emotion washed over him. It was such a small thing, a simple fix, but it felt like a profound gesture of care. He looked at Ethan, truly looked at him, and saw not just a skilled craftsman, but a man of integrity, of quiet strength, and of deep kindness. Ethan wasn't just someone special. He was someone who made Noah feel safe, seen, and utterly cherished. The warmth he felt was no longer just closeness. It was a deeper, more profound sense of connection, a silent acknowledgement of the beautiful, unforgettable bond that had quietly blossomed between them. The thought of Ethan leaving, of this chapter closing, felt suddenly unbearable. The morning air had a crisp, almost melancholic quality as Noah woke up. Today was the day, the final day. He felt a knot of anticipation and dread tighten in his stomach. He made his usual pot of coffee, but the comforting ritual felt different, tinged with an awareness that soon, this particular rhythm would cease. Ethan would arrive, complete the last few tasks, clean up, and then leave. Ethan walked in with his usual cheerful greeting, but Noah thought he detected a subtle shift in his demeanor too, a quiet intensity beneath the easy smile. "Morning, Noah. Ready for the grand reveal?" he asked, his eyes scanning the almost finished kitchen. Noah nodded, trying to match Ethan's lightness. "As ready as I'll ever be." They moved through the apartment together, Noah pointing out a tiny smudge on a newly painted wall, Ethan meticulously wiping it away. Every corner gleamed. The new kitchen was a masterpiece of functionality and style, the light bouncing off the polished surfaces, making the whole space feel larger and more inviting. The bathroom, once a cramped afterthought, was now a sanctuary, its soft lighting and elegant fixtures promising peaceful moments. It was perfect. More than perfect, it was everything Noah had dreamed of and more, brought to life by Ethan's skilled hands and discerning eye. "Well," Ethan said, stepping back from the freshly installed towel rack in the bathroom, his voice a little softer than usual. "I think that's it. All done." Noah looked around, a lump forming in his throat. "It's beautiful, Ethan. Truly. Thank you." Ethan's gaze met his, and for a long moment, they simply stood there, unspoken words hanging in the air between them. The professional barrier that had once existed was long gone, replaced by something much deeper, much more personal. Then, Ethan gave a small nod and began the process of cleaning up. This wasn't just tidying, it was a ritual, a final act of care. He swept up the last few flecks of sawdust, gathered stray tools, and carefully packed them into his well-worn toolbox. He wiped down surfaces, leaving no trace of his work except for the sparkling, transformed apartment itself. Noah watched him, feeling a strange mix of admiration and longing. Every movement Ethan made was deliberate, efficient, yet imbued with a quiet grace. As Ethan worked, the apartment slowly shed its renovation-era chaos, settling into its new, pristine state. The air, which had once been filled with the sounds of construction, now grew heavy with unspoken feelings. Each swipe of a cloth, each click of a toolbox latch, seemed to amplify the silence, making the space between them thrum with an almost tangible tension. Noah found himself wanting to speak, to say something, anything, to prolong these last moments, but the words wouldn't form. His throat felt tight, his heart a frantic drum against his ribs. He watched Ethan carefully roll up a large tarp, his strong arms making light work of it. The contractor's shirt was smudged with a bit of paint, his jeans dusted with plaster, a testament to the hard work he'd poured into Noah's home. Yet, even in his work clothes, Ethan possessed a rugged charm, that Noah found incredibly attractive. It was in the way his hair fell across his forehead, in the focused set of his jaw, in the quiet strength that emanated from him. Ethan paused, taking a slow breath, and looked around the apartment one last time, a satisfied smile playing on his lips. His gaze finally settled on Noah, and this time there was no mistaking the warmth, the depth of emotion in his eyes. It mirrored Noah's own, a silent acknowledgement of the connection that had grown between them over these past weeks. "Well," Ethan said again, his voice a low rumble, breaking the quiet. He slung his toolbox over his shoulder, the gesture familiar and easy. "I think that's everything. The apartment's all yours, Noah." Noah nodded, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. He felt a profound sense of gratitude, not just for the beautiful home Ethan had created, but for the unexpected gift of his presence, his friendship, his quiet understanding. And something more, something that buzzed beneath his skin, an electric current of possibility. The apartment was perfect, yes, but its perfection felt almost incomplete without Ethan. The unspoken feelings between them were a heavy, beautiful cloak, wrapping them both in a moment that felt suspended in time, on the precipice of something entirely new. The silence stretched, heavy and meaningful, after Ethan announced the completion of the work. Noah's heart hammered against his ribs, a frantic drumbeat echoing the unspoken words that filled the air. Ethan, with his toolbox slung over his shoulder, seemed to hesitate, his gaze lingering on Noah's face. The moment felt fragile, poised on the edge of something unknown. Noah finally found his voice, a little shaky. "So that's it then." Ethan's lips curved into a soft, almost shy smile. "Pretty much. Just one last thing." He set his toolbox down with a gentle thud. "I just wanted to show you something in the kitchen, a little detail about the new faucet." Noah nodded, grateful for the reprieve, for any excuse to prolong Ethan's stay. He followed Ethan back into the gleaming new kitchen, the scent of fresh wood and lemon polish still hanging faintly in the air. Ethan walked over to the sink, his posture relaxed, but his eyes still holding that quiet intensity. "See here," Ethan began, gesturing towards the sleek, modern faucet. Noah stepped closer, standing beside him, acutely aware of Ethan's proximity. The warmth radiating from him was a comforting blanket, yet it also sent a shiver of anticipation down Noah's spine. Ethan leaned in slightly, his voice dropping to a low, intimate tone as he explained the faucet's features. "The spray nozzle, it's got a magnetic dock. You just pull out like this," as he demonstrated. His hand moved, and his fingers, strong and calloused, brushed lightly against Noah's arm. The touch was fleeting, barely there, but it was electric. A jolt, like a sudden spark, shot through Noah's entire body. His breath hitched in his throat. It was such a small, accidental contact, yet it felt like a deliberate caress, sending a wave of heat through him. His heart, already racing, sped up even more, thumping a frantic rhythm against his ribs. Noah's gaze flew to Ethan's face, searching for a reaction, a sign that Ethan had felt it too. Ethan's eyes, those warm brown eyes, met his. For a split second, a raw, undeniable emotion flickered in their depths, a mix of vulnerability and a deep, yearning desire that mirrored Noah's own. The air crackled around them, suddenly charged with an almost unbearable tension. Ethan continued to speak about the faucet, his voice a little rougher now, but Noah barely heard the words. His mind was reeling from the touch, from the silent language that had just passed between them. He could still feel the phantom warmth of Ethan's fingers on his arm, a lingering sensation that burned through his shirt. He swallowed hard, tried to regain his composure, but his hands felt clammy, and a blush crept up his neck. He wanted to reach out, to touch Ethan back, to confirm that this wasn't just his imagination, that the spark was real. But fear, a sudden, cold fear of misinterpretation, held him back. This was still a professional relationship, wasn't it? Or had already crossed that line, subtly, irrevocably, over weeks of shared coffee and quiet moments. Ethan finished his explanation, his hand dropping away from Noah's arm. The loss of contact left Noah feeling strangely bereft, as if a vital connection had been severed. Ethan took a step back, creating a small but significant distance between them. "So, that's it," Ethan repeated, his voice back to its usual steady tone, though Noah could still detect a slight tremor in it. "Any questions about anything else?" Noah shook his head, unable to form a coherent thought. He just wanted to stand there in the charged silence and let the moment stretch out, hoping that anything would happen. The domestic intimacy that had blossomed between them had suddenly taken on a new, exhilarating edge, transforming into a raw, undeniable tension. The casual service call had become something far more profound, teetering on the brink of unforgettable. Noah knew, with every beat of his racing heart, that he didn't want this to end. Not yet. Not like this. He wanted to know what that touch meant, what that look in Ethan's eyes promised. He wanted to leap into the unknown, to see where this electric current would lead them. The small distance Ethan had created between them after explaining the faucet felt like a chasm to Noah. His mind spun, trying to process the electric touch, the unspoken questions in Ethan's eyes, and the sudden, overwhelming desire to bridge that gap. He stood frozen, unable to move, unable to speak, his heart still thrumming a wild rhythm against his ribs. He watched Ethan, who was now gathering the last of his tools, his movements a little less fluid than before, a subtle tension in his broad shoulders. "Well, Noah," Ethan said again, his voice deeper now, almost a murmur. He picked up his toolbox, the worn leather feeling suddenly heavy. "I guess I should get going." The words were a cold splash of reality. Noah's breath caught in his throat. This couldn't be it. Not after everything. Not after the weeks of shared laughter, the quiet moments, the burgeoning intimacy that had woven itself into the fabric of his home and his heart. He felt a desperate urge to stop Ethan, to beg him to stay, to confess the swirling feelings that had taken root within him. But the words remained trapped, a tight knot in his chest. Ethan took a step towards the door, then another. Noah felt a wave of despair wash over him. Was this really how it would end? A polite goodbye, a professional parting, leaving behind a perfectly renovated apartment and a heart full of unexpressed longing. Suddenly, Ethan stopped. He turned back, his eyes, those warm, kind, knowing eyes, fixed on Noah's face. The toolbox slipped from his grip, hitting the newly polished floor with a soft thud that echoed in the sudden, absolute silence of the apartment. Before Noah could even process the sound, Ethan was moving. He closed the distance between them in 2 long strides, his movements quick, decisive, yet incredibly gentle. Noah barely had time to register the shift in Ethan's expression, from hesitant to determined, before he found himself pressed softly against the newly painted kitchen wall. Ethan hadn't used force. His body simply arrived, a solid, comforting presence against Noah's. One of his hands, strong and calloused, landed softly on the wall just beside Noah's head, effectively pinning him, not with aggression, but with a deliberate, tender command. The other hand rested lightly on Noah's waist, a warm, grounding weight that sent a fresh wave of heat through Noah's core. Noah's breath hitched again, but this time it wasn't from fear. It was from a potent mix of surprise, exhilaration, and a dizzying sense of inevitability. His heart leaped, a joyous, frantic beat that sang in his ears. He was trapped, yes, but in the most wonderful way possible. Ethan leaned in, his face close to Noah's, close enough for Noah to feel the warmth of his breath, to see the tiny flecks of gold in his deep brown eyes. Those eyes, usually so open and friendly, were now intense, burning with a raw, undeniable emotion. They were warm and strong, full of a silent question that Noah recognized instantly, a question he had been asking himself for weeks, a question he now desperately wanted to answer. There was no need for words. The unspoken feelings that had thickened the air were now roaring between them, a powerful current that pulled them closer. Ethan's rugged charm, usually so subtly present, was now overwhelming, a magnetic force that Noah couldn't, and didn't want to resist. The domestic intimacy that had grown from shared coffee and conversations had morphed into something fiercely personal, potent, and utterly captivating. Noah looked into Ethan's eyes, seeing not just the question, but a reflection of his own yearning, his own hope. The tension of turning a casual service call into something unforgettable had reached its peak, a thrilling precipice from which there was no turning back. All Noah could do was breathe and let himself fall. His gaze dropped to Ethan's lips, a silent invitation, a desperate plea for the answer they both sought. The wall, once a symbol of the apartment's transformation, now became the backdrop for a moment that promised a transformation of their lives. Pressed gently against the cool, newly painted wall, Noah could feel the steady beat of Ethan's heart against his own, a powerful, rhythmic thrum that echoed the wild pounding in his chest. The world outside, with its distant city sounds and the quiet hum of his laptop, simply vanished. There was only Ethan, only Noah, and the space between them, thick with a yearning so profound it felt like a physical presence. Ethan's eyes, a swirling depth of warm brown, held Noah's gaze. They were strong, yet vulnerable, asking a question that transcended words. It was a question of desire, of hope, of what could be, and Noah's entire being screamed the answer. His gaze, which had instinctively dropped to Ethan's lips, now lifted, meeting those compelling eyes, a silent invitation passing between them. The air in the quiet room crackled, alive with unspoken words, with every shared glance, every lingering touch from the past weeks. It was a symphony of silent confessions, a culmination of all the shared coffees, the easy laughter, the comfortable silences, and the growing warmth that had blossomed into something undeniably potent. Noah felt a powerful pull, a magnetic force drawing him closer, dissolving any lingering doubts or fears. Ethan's hand, still resting lightly on Noah's waist, tightened almost imperceptibly, a gentle anchor. The other hand, braced against the wall beside Noah's head, created a protective enclosure, a private world where only they existed. Noah could feel the rugged charm of Ethan's presence, the subtle scent of sawdust and his skin enveloping him. It was intoxicating. Noah's lips parted slightly, a silent plea. He wanted to speak, to confirm, to articulate the depth of his feelings, but no sound escaped. His voice, his words, seemed unnecessary, redundant in the face of such profound understanding. Everything that needed to be said was already being communicated in the raw, honest gaze that held them captive. Ethan's head dipped, slowly, deliberately. Noah's eyes fluttered shut, anticipation a sweet ache in his throat. He felt the soft brush of Ethan's breath against his lips, warm and inviting. Time stretched, a beautiful, agonizing moment suspended just before the inevitable. Then, Ethan's lips met his. It was soft at first, a tentative exploration, a gentle press that tasted of unspoken longing and fresh paint. Noah responded instantly, his own lips parting further, inviting Ethan deeper. The kiss deepened, slowly at first, then with a surge of passion that took Noah's breath away. Ethan's hand on his waist moved, drawing him even closer until there was no space left between them, their bodies pressed together in a perfect fit. Noah's hands, which had been resting uselessly by his sides, now found their way to Ethan's shoulders, gripping the strong fabric of his work shirt, holding on as if his life depended on it. The kiss was everything Noah had silently yearned for, a powerful affirmation of the connection they had built. It was rough and tender all at once, a blend of Ethan's rugged charm and the domestic intimacy that had blossomed between them. It spoke of weeks of quiet observation, of mutual respect, and of a simmering attraction that had finally boiled over. When they finally broke apart, breathless, their foreheads rested against each other. Noah's eyes slowly opened, meeting Ethan's, which were now softened with a joyful relief. The question was gone, replaced by an answer, a clear, undeniable promise. "Noah," Ethan whispered, his voice husky, his thumb gently stroking Noah's side. "Ethan," Noah breathed back, a soft, happy sigh escaping him. The apartment, once a place of solitary comfort, now felt charged with a new kind of warmth, a shared promise. The tension of turning a casual service call into something unforgettable had melted into the sweet afterglow of a beginning. The quiet room, filled with the lingering scent of wood and the faint echo of their shared breaths, now held the promise of something truly wonderful. It was more than just a renovated apartment. It was a home transformed, not just by new walls and gleaming fixtures, but by the unexpected, beautiful connection that had just begun to build between two men. And Noah knew, with absolute certainty, that this was only the first nail, the first stroke of paint, in a much larger, more incredible story.